Turn it up. You're listening to Live and Loud with the Lord, Nelson, that is.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you know who it is. It is yours truly, the Lord. Got to pause always. Nelson, that is, from the podcast Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS network with 5 Royals Entertainment. And ladies and gentlemen, I will say that, all my guests are special, but this young man right here, first of all, he comes on and he's dressed a certain way, which I can respect and love, man. I love it. It's awesome, man. He might not even really believe it, but I'm telling him I love what he's rocking right now. So it's a beautiful thing. But if he doesn't mind, I like to read something that, I always like to write up something about my guest and, after I've done my research. So I like to read this off just to big you guys up or big you up. And here we go. So ladies and gentlemen, my special guest brings that infectious sound that embodies incredible musicianship and visceral vocals that warm you like your favorite blanket or cools you on that hottest summer day. You immediately feel comfortable and welcome as the incredible musicians feed your mental with their passionate pleasure of calmness that excites your senses and brings a peace of mind that is truly needed in this fast-paced living for the moment society we've all come to know so well. So I am honored to have them bless my show with their presence. Well, one young man, but he's going to represent for the whole crew. Represent with his presence. And without further ado, I introduce to you the outstanding Seth from A Doll's House. Yes, indeed. Let me clap you up, man. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Really appreciate it, man. Listen, so my first question always with all my guests is, where are you from, young man?
So I and the rest of the band, we're all from Los Angeles.
L.A.
Yep. And two of the guys are still in L.A. I actually am now in a small town in Jersey.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and then Dave, my songwriting partner and best friend since I was 16, he's up in the Sacramento area in California. Okay. So we're kind of spread out. Yeah.
Got you. So what's the best thing about being from L.A.?
So, it's one of those things where, right, home is home. Mm-hmm. And it's, I think for being a musician and for the time, and you may know a little bit about this, we're kind of a new band coming out now, but we're an old band. The 3 of us were in a band together way back in the, late 80s, early 90s. LA is just a great music town, mm-hmm. particularly in that era for what we were doing. And I'm sure you can appreciate that was just a pretty unique moment in rock, sort of broadly written rock. Just a lot of new stuff coming out. I mean, we were literally playing the clubs in LA when, Nevermind from Nirvana came out. I mean, I remember, you got to hear this, and Soundgarden and Jane's Addiction and the Chili Peppers. The Chili Peppers have been, part of LA for a long time, but really started breaking out into the mainstream. So, I just think if you're in those formative years of trying to learn how to write songs and play music, it was a great spot to be in.
Great time to grow up there, man. Love all the bands that you mentioned, all big, iconic. I mean, unbelievable. Yes, indeed. So reading your bio was an awesome read for me. I'm honestly, and you kind of touched on a little bit of it. I can relate to what you've gone through to get where you are. What is it about music that continued to call your names after such a long break of chasing your dream?
Yeah, I think, and that's been one of the things that's been probably the most rewarding about this whole process of, finally doing it and actually getting it together, making an album is, as you get older, and this sounds a little cliche, but it's true, you start to focus a little more on what is really important. You said it well a few minutes ago about the crazy, hectic pace that particularly in America that we're all sort of, subscribed to now, willingly or not. And, for me, music is just, it's one of the very few things in life where I can truly get lost in, hours can go by. There's just, and I don't know if everybody has something like that. I hope everybody should, because like you said, in the world we're in, it's just great. Right. And so for me, that was that calling's always been there, but I think now we're just at a point in life where we can actually, the four of us can try to prioritize that a little more than we could perhaps as younger, in our younger selves. And, it's great if you can find a way to actually start to prioritize something you love and spend more time at it. What else can you want?
All I know is that I knew when I was going and looking and reading things, I was like, I'm going to love this because you guys are me, I think that if I would have back then, man, there's no telling what would have happened if I would have really had any success back then. Right. I really don't know. Me being such an impressionable person back then, man, there's no telling what would happen. I'm not a wild dude, but I might have been a wild dude.
No, we say that all the time. I mean, particularly Dave and I and Tony. I mean, we were pretty wild back then. And, I always say we kind of went through 8.5 of our 9 lives then. And yeah. But I agree with you completely. I mean, we've talked about it almost in exactly those terms. Like, I think it's almost better because one, maybe you get successful because you got lucky and, you had one song that kind of resonated, but,
yes.
We're such better songwriters now.
Right.
And, how many bands come and, one hit wonders or whatever, and you meet a little success and that's it. And, it really resonates what you said. I think that's very true for us.
No doubt. So how much was music a part of your early childhood and what was being played at that time in your household?
Oh, interesting. So it's funny. No one in my family played anything.
Really?
And I literally just, one day I just got it in my head that I wanted to play guitar and thank God my parents were like, let's try it, and, the earliest albums I remember being in the house were the Beach Boys' "Endless Summer," something the one with the Tambourine Man, and then Neil Diamond's "Hot August Night," which if you've ever seen it, it's this double album that opens up, and Neil Diamond looks like he was fronting Led Zeppelin back then. It's so funny. I mean, it's like he just was really rocking it. Anyway, those were some of the but. And this is funny, right? You talk about a different era. The way I really got started was I used to rent albums from the library.
Really?
You could go to the local library.
You're right. That's right.
Yeah. And you could check out albums. So I started checking out a lot of Beatles albums and that kind of really got me going. The other guys in the band are similar. And he's one of those guys, like, I think Dave, was born with a guitar in his hand. He was literally playing guitar since he was like 6 or something.
Right.
And Tony, our drummer, who's just a great all-around musician. He's great, great piano player, guitar player, bass player. He's a fantastic drummer. He started pretty early on, piano, all that. But I think music and Dave Santos, our singer, same kind of thing. He doesn't play an instrument, but just sort of knew he had that gift for singing early on. And I think I can't speak for all the guys, but Dave's, a lot of his early influencers the same as mine. A lot of Beatles, in the house and things like that.
Awesome, man. So in your teen years, who or what band or bands was the be all end all for you?
So I would say when we really started playing as a band, so this is like the late 80s, early 90s, right. We always had kind of this, classic rock influence. But we were definitely, I think, more part of, like I said, kind of that Jane's Addiction, Chili Peppers scene, but just kind of probably a little more straightforward rock than that. But I think, the constant for me, I mean, for me personally, I've always, as a bass player, and I'm the bass player in the band, and, I play some other stuff, but that's, the focus. I don't know if it's like that for everybody or for you, you kind of imprint on certain players early on and never really seem to get away from them. So for me, the bass players, even now it just keeps creeping in. I'm like, oh yeah, that's where that, I inspire that. And that's always been, I love John Taylor from Duran Duran. I just think he's like one of the funkiest bass players out there, which is funny for a, white guy from Birmingham, England. Right. And, I love, Paul McCartney's bass playing. I love John Paul Jones, Zeppelin. David J. from, you may remember, Bauhaus and Love and Rockets, just a very unusual bass player. And so those were sort of always in our mind, even though the music scene was changing into more of that kind of, what we think of as that classic sort of, early 90s rock, kind of getting into grunge and all that.
Well, you speak about, I always remember something that Quincy Jones, and I've said this many times on my show. Quincy Jones always said you grab 10 of your favorite. So if you grab 10 of your favorite bass players and you took one thing from each of them, and see, when you're speaking about these guys, and you probably have, and maybe you know it or you don't know it. So if you take 10 things from each of these people, you'll find that you'll have your own unique style. And so I've always, like, when I speak to musicians and I ask them, when they speak about things like that, it just makes me, I could just see it. I'm very visual, so I could just oh man, that's cool. That's So you played in some great venues when you first started and had a nice momentum from what I've read. So why do you think the momentum stopped for you guys?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to your comment about, maybe it's good that you don't meet success too early on. I think, back then, you feel like, so we were in our late teens, early 20s. When you're that young, you think somebody who's 30 is ancient, right? We were, so we thought we were adults, but now with a little bit of wisdom, I think really what we realize now is we did all that on our own. We just sort of figured it out. Like, all right, I can tell you a funny story. The way we first played our first club in LA was the Troubadour, which, a lot of people know the Troubadour.
Yes.
The way we played it is I went up to Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction after he played this kind of outdoor concert called LA Street Scene back then.
Okay.
And it was that kind of thing. You could just go up to these guys. And I said, how do you play a club? And he told me, he said, just call this guy or whatever. And I said, all right, what did I know? I was 17 or 18. So I called him and we ended up finding a slot and, we booked it. Oh. But I think, so you can do some of that. And the music was good and we had a good little following of people that would come and see us. But I think what was missing is we didn't have an adult in the room with us to sort of say, right, all right, what do you do to take it to the next level? We just didn't know, and it's like, for some bands, you have that moment of just the right person was there and quote discovered you. But I think we just didn't know. And, now, I mean, the thing about now is just with the technology and all the platforms and the way for people to get music.
Yes.
That piece of it is, I don't know if it's easier. It's certainly more accessible, than it was at least to learn about it than it was back then. Because if you didn't know, you didn't know.
No doubt. So real question. Do you have any regrets about having to pivot into other successful careers, knowing that a music career was something you truly craved and longed for?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think, again, in a perfect world, like, if you could write the script and, write the career, I'm sure everybody would say, oh, but that's not how life works.
Right.
I have no regrets about it. I think the great thing about doing this now is we are older, we're wiser. And, I like, I know myself really well now. We were joking about what I'm wearing. Right. And it's like, you know what? That's what I know about myself. That's what I'm comfortable with. It's like, you kind of get to a point where you're like, I'm sure it's the same for you, right? You're like, this is this is who I am. And I'm very comfortable with that. And, so no, I don't regret it at all, particularly now because it's been so much fun. We're guys in our early 50s. We're not, we're not competing with the boy bands, right? But we did it, right? And how many people, sort of think about, I hope, to the extent we get any traction, I hope one of the things that comes from it is people maybe get a little inspired, like,
of course,
you know what, life can be long and what you make of it. And, it's been such a joy for us to do this, and actually put an album together. And that was the purpose. We just said, look, let's just make a real album and it'll be something we can be proud of. May not be life changing, who knows what happens, but it's something we'll be proud of and glad we've done. And we're at a point in our lives where we can spend some time and do it right.
And listen, I love it. And I, even though I was laughing, because I laugh a lot, I wasn't joking. Yeah. I wasn't joking about when we were talking about the ensemble. I just
I know you.
No. I just want you to know that it's cool to me because it's something that I know. Because I'm telling you, man, I have a closet full of horses. I have my Ralph Lauren polo shirts. I have a lot of them, pants, socks. Listen, I wear that on a regular basis. So so I just want you to understand that most definitely. So in hindsight, how has the pivot helped you return to creating your amazing music in today's landscape of social media algorithms? You kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, one, just obviously technology is at the root of a lot of it. from everything from, not, obviously in terms of being able to get music out there, right? There's so many ways to do it. Now, of course, the trick is, there's so many ways to get music out there. How do you try to attract people to listen to yours?
Right. 100%.
Which is sort of right. And that's sort of like the inverse of what it was back in our early days. It was, limited avenues of getting music out. So it was more, how do you get to be one of the ones that get it out? But more interesting to me has just been on the sort of songwriting, recording process. As I mentioned, we're kind of in 3 different places around the country, and we were able to write, these songs and record them across the country, with using Pro Tools, Logic, whatever. I mean, some of it started on GarageBand,
right.
And you can do that, right? You can actually write these songs, and then the recording process. So we were very fortunate to hook up with Brian Wheat from Tesla. He's the bass player and founding member of Tesla,
right?
And very accomplished, producer, recording engineer, etc. He's got his own studio that's great, and we had the good fortune of hooking up with him, and just that process of being able to, be with him in the studio, record stuff live, but then also be able to fine tune things and have. At one point, we had some of the vocals done in a studio in LA, and then sent to Brian to sort of engineer and mix.
Right.
And so it really, it breaks down that kind of technology really breaks down the barriers to getting something done.
Indeed, man. Listen, man, I'm loving this. I'm loving
it. Yeah. Well, it allows us to talk today, right?
Right. Indeed. So how receptive, if you have children, are you married? Married with children? Okay. So how receptive have your wives and children been to you going all in with the music again? Yeah.
So for me, so it's funny, my older son, Sam, should get a lot of credit for this, because he literally showed me how to use GarageBand about 5 years ago. He's like looking at me like, you really don't know how to use this thing? So he gets a lot of credit. My wife is incredible. My wife is, I've been married almost 30 years, if you believe that. And, and she was one of our close, circle when we were back then. I mean, she's, not quite my high school sweetheart, but college, definitely.
Yes.
She's always supported me in any sort of harebrained idea I've had along the way. And I can say that for the rest of the group in terms of our families and kids, especially, it is kind of one thing that's really neat about it, is, I think from the kids' perspective is, I just think kids, and I mean that from, we've got kids ranging from, 12 to, early 20s in the band. And I just think kids strike me as a lot more open to music coming from all different places than I think of myself at that age. And I think that has a lot to do with, what we were talking about with technology. But I think, again, for some guys that are sort of not in our early 20s anymore,
right?
I think we are we're really fortunate that we're trying this in an environment where I think people are open to hearing music from anyone, any age, any part of the world. And technology obviously helps to do that. But all the kids and our, wives, partners, significant others have been, nothing but supportive, and which has been great, because obviously we can't do it if we don't have that kind of help.
No, that's awesome, because that does mean a lot to have that family. I always tell people, that's always the icing on the cake. We want everybody else we really want the people out there to really love us, because family is just a certain amount of, they're family,
right.
They know you. It's all love. Yeah.
Right.
But when they do go all in with you and they support you, it means the world to you, because you're doing something that you love. And if they can understand it or get it, or just be open to allowing you to be you, that's a beautiful thing, man. So applause to your wife, your better halves, your kids, and all that. Yeah, indeed. So the music you create now, is it similar to the music you created back then? And if not, what has changed?
So it's interesting. It's some of it. So this album that we made called Annam, actually two of the tracks are songs we used to play in the clubs way back then.
Awesome.
And so there's definitely, I mean, what's interesting to us is it's been so many years, but there's definitely that sound, that kind of whatever it is, a Doll's House sound. But we've definitely become much more just better songwriters,
Okay.
and that makes sense, right? We've had a lot more time to think about it, learn how to
Experiences and
do it,
everything. Yes, indeed.
trial and error and all that.
Right.
And one of the things that I think's really been really fun about it is, at this point in our lives, like there's, back then when you're, late teens, early 20s, there's a lot of ego, right? And everybody's sort of feeling their way in the world, and I think that's a healthy thing to go through. But now when we write songs, there's no, well, wait a second, you're trying to get rid of my part, or I did this, or you did that. And Dave and I primarily kind of at least start the songs, and we kind of write the songs together. And it'll be everything from, we have a lot of songs that I start with, some kind of a guitar part. Dave is a much, I'm not really a guitar player. Dave's a very accomplished guitar player. And so he'll take those things and then he'll start to sort of put a signature on it. And he's a great bass player in his own right. And so sometimes he'll give me an idea. Hey, why don't you think about something like this for the bass? And then I'll take that and kind of, do my thing with it.
Right.
So it's very, collaborative. There's never, it's all about the song. How do we get to the best song?
Right.
Same thing when Tony and Dave Santos, add their pieces, we really want them to have free reign. And Tony always has just a really interesting way of approaching rhythm that we would never have thought of. And Dave Santos on the vocals, he's just got he's just a fantastic singer.
Right.
But two, he's just kind of that rare guy who he understands harmony in a way that I just don't. And he just develops these layers, and it's just great to have an environment where people feel free to do their thing and not feel like, oh, am I stepping on your toes? We're just like, look, we can always re-record something, right?
Right.
We can let's just try it, and if it doesn't work, we don't do it. But most of the time, it works, and it ends up being much better song.
Yeah, man, just being able to do your thing. And I know I spoke with somebody recently about that, having the freedom to be you. And just like you said, Dave Santos, you guys brought him in to do what he does, and allowing him to have that freedom is a beautiful thing. And even with the my bandmate Matt Acevedo in Plastic Catastrophe, same situation. He's in Texas, I'm in South Carolina. But when he sends me music, I allow him, I'm like, man, send me what you're feeling, what's boom. And then he allows me to write to it how I feel about it. And it's just a good situation. I had that with Rich Ward when I was with Stuck Mojo and all the other bands, Lord knows featuring lives. All of these musicians that I've worked with, they've allowed me to be me. And that's been a beautiful thing. And so I really hear you on that one, man. That's a good thing, man. That's a good chemistry that you guys have. It allows for better music, I believe. My personal opinion. So let's talk about the first single, Hey Wait, off your highly anticipated debut album, Annam. You guys haven't released that yet, right? Annam has right.
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey Wait is out there, and
right.
Exactly.
So let me say this. To me, it's an amazing listen, no doubt, and I hope it's showcasing what the album will be like. So was it written about a specific person or situation, the song Hey Wait?
So yeah, I'm glad you it is hopefully the vibe of the song. I think we wanted to have that one come out because we do think it's representative of the vibe of the overall album.
Awesome.
And
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great then.
We could have a whole discussion about whether albums exist anymore, but we definitely approached it with whether people want to listen to it as an album or not. We want to listen to it as an album. So Hey Wait really does, I think, kind of embody what the overall vibe of the album is. And it's one of those funny songs. I'm sure you can relate. The great thing about songwriting is you never know where the ideas are going to come from. You have some songs that take a long time to work out, and you just know, and you labor on them. They're not quite right. And you finally get there. You have other songs that just kind of come out of the woodwork and there it is. And Hey Wait was kind of like that. It was something I'd had floating around, just the basic sort of structure on guitar. Right. And of all things, I was visiting Dave, the guitar player, and staying with him for a few days. He went out to go to one of his kids' baseball games. I stayed in his music room and played with all. He's got, like 15 guitars laying around all the time. So I just picked up one, started messing around with this one, and just got the lyrical idea and the melody.
Right.
Just kind of did it while he was gone. He came back. He loved it. He sort of did his thing to it almost right away. And like a week later, we had a really, really solid demo with Santos singing on it, and it sounded great. It's in terms of what it's about. I write not all, but a lot of the lyrics on this album and for our songs. And I don't approach it this way all the time, but I like songs where there's an element of mystery to it, where you're not quite sure what is going on, but you kind of get an impression of this person. And Hey Wait is one of those. It's about it's clearly about a woman. There's something going on. I always think about it, whether you're on, I spent a lot of time in New York. So whether you're on the subway or PATH train or whatever kind of, transportation, and you just people watching and you see people and there's something going on, right? And try to just imagine what that's about. So it's kind of one of those things where, and there's little clues to it, there really is no answer to it. I don't know at the end what it actually is about, but it's that kind of thing. It's just thinking about what could be going on in someone else's life. And they've obviously got this hurt, but what's it from and what are they doing about it?
Goosebumps, young man. And I'm going to tell you why, because I see everything. So when we're having conversation, I pictured everything. You talk about the subway. I'm there with you. I'm sitting beside you, looking across, and I watch people also, and I know that everybody has a story. And sometimes when I'm just driving, I'm just looking at like, what are they going through? What are they going through? And then it's like, I'm going through this, and so everybody's going through something. And so when you say that, man, there's so much out there that could be said that you could imagine or whatever like that. So I'm with you on that one. I love that. Yeah. That's great. Great. So please speak about who wrote the song and who produced the song. We know who wrote the song. Who produced the song?
Right. So Brian Wheat.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. Brian Wheat from Tesla. And it was great. I'll just take, just to the extent it's interesting to you. Just working with him was awesome. And it was, particularly on Hey Wait, we'd never worked together. And so we're kind of coming into it, a little nervous about, working with this guy who's been, rocking for 40 years and still going strong and, sold millions of albums worldwide, et cetera. But he's just a great guy to work with. He's very clear with what he thinks, and that's what you want. You don't want to pussyfoot around things. And so he really had a big hand in arranging the songs. We kind of went into it thinking, all right, we've worked really hard on these demos. We know how we want it to go. And Brian's really good about saying, hey, it's your album, but I think you ought to try this. And there was some of that on Hey Wait, and all the suggestions were great. And a lot of them, they were very, really significant to the point of like, and this was just kind of a fun process was, we had a song and he said, it's the last song on the album. He said, I just think it needs a guitar solo. And so, Brian will just call. I was with Brian in New York mixing, and we were at the point of mixing the song, and he's like, I just think it needs a guitar solo. So he just gets Dave on the phone, dude, go write a guitar solo, send it to me, by tomorrow morning. Click,
Hey.
Dave panics for a minute, but then he, collected himself, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite solo on the album.
Yeah, hey, listen, I always tell everybody I love when my guests go into stuff like you just answered the next two questions I was going to talk about, Brian. Yeah, no, it's beautiful to me. I love when that always goes on because it just flows so well. And that's a great thing. And yes, he has done a great job. And, to have somebody who is in the midst of that and being with Tesla and have, sold all those. Yeah, he's seen it and he's been there. And I think that we as musicians and artists, we can appreciate when somebody who has already done it at a level that we haven't done it. A lot of people can be arrogant and there's nothing wrong with being confident, but being able to open your mind and listen to somebody who's done it already is important to me. If it's just John over here might speak up, hey, John knows what he likes, but John, this guy right here really knows. And so I'm going to kind of listen to his opinion, before I listen to you. And no disrespect. That's a lovely thing. So shout out to Brian, man. Hey, great thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. So who was the original singer of the band, and how has David Santos elevated the band's sound with his singing?
So as I said, we've become wiser, and one of the wise decisions we made. So back in the day, when we first started, Dave, the guitar player, and I would do the singing.
Okay.
And that kind of morphed at one point where we really just had Dave doing the singing. I still sing on a lot of our demos because I sort of write a lot of the melodies and the lyrics to kind of get it going. But I'm not a very good singer. And so one of the wise things we did was to try to find someone who really can sing. And that's how Santos kind of found us. And it's just been, again, you talk about just strokes of luck and allowing other people to kind of do what they do. It's an interesting situation. He's just a great guy. One, he's just a great guy to hang out with, but just to work with on songs because, from his perspective, right, he's being presented with something where, the vocal part is kind of written,
right,
or at least there's an outline of it. And then, but by all means, we're saying, do your thing to it, like make it, and he just has this way of taking these sort of basic melodies and putting his own stamp on it and, can really significantly change things, add parts. I mentioned before, his sense of harmony is just, off the charts. And so it seems like when you look at it on paper, it seems like a formula that probably wouldn't work, to write a good song. But for some reason, he's the right guy for us. And it really like you said, it just elevates it to that next level where, we're like, wow, we've got someone who can really sing. This is great.
That's awesome, man. Listen, never doubt what you do as a singer. If you can hold that melody and that tone, I always tell people, no, I'm not this person or that. I'm not Luther Vandross and I'm not this. But I just do what I do. And I am big on melodies and harmonies and stuff too. That touches me. And so, there might be somebody else that can sing it, better. And, I'm glad you guys have found that guy, but but still he gets the ideas from you about what it should be and how, and then you just let him go and do his thing, man. So that that's just a beautiful thing. So as young as you guys are very young. What expectations do you have for this album when it comes to touring?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we're fathers, husbands, and all that. So we need to figure, we're going to have to figure out one, I hope it's a problem we have, right? I hope there's a good reason for us, but we're not the kind of band, obviously, who can say, hey, let's just take 4 months and go out there and see what happens, right? It's going to have to be a little more focused, right? But again, that's why your question really, I really liked your question about how the families support all this, because if we don't have that, it'll be, we can't do it.
Yes.
So, I think it's gonna require, a lot of sort of planning on our part, right? But it can be done. And again, I think, just because of so many different kinds of venues out there and ways to play, whether it's at smaller venues or live things in studio. There's a lot of those opportunities. So I feel like there's because there's so many options out there, some of which weren't always there, that it's a good fit for us, and we'll find a way to make it work. And like I said, hopefully it's a problem we have to solve, and people will be wanting to see us, but we would love to do it.
Indeed. I think you guys have a sound that a lot of people are going to love, and a lot of people do love. And just continue doing what you're doing, man. Just it's a great sound. I dig it, man. I'm a military kid. I listen to everything. People always say, like, I'm no genre snob. I listen to it all. If it's hot to me. I don't care what it is. If it sounds good to me, my Spotify playlist that I have and the music that I listen to, sometimes my wife and kids just look at me like, man, this dude right here, man, what is he doing? I'm everywhere. It could be anything, but I just enjoy music. Music is a time machine to me. And like you were saying back in the 80s and listening to those sounds, and when you were talking about those bands, man, I was just like, wow, man, I remember listening to this. I remember listening to okay, yeah, Red Hot. Anyway, amazing, man. So what are you most looking forward to when it comes to playing live?
Yeah, one, it's been a long time since we've done it, and so but there's just one of the things that we really like is we like being a band, and what I mean by that is sometimes I think what's missing from music when I hear it is the personalities of the players, right? They're the bands that I tend to love, and it's just people have different tastes, but the bands and artists that I tend to gravitate to are bands where who's playing guitar, right? It's that guitar player. You can hear their personalities in it. And I feel like we've got that. And so, if you can create that live and get that across, and I think we can, there's just nothing like it. There's nothing like people actually just playing live music together and getting it right.
Right. Playing in a band, and I'm doing my rap thing and hip hop thing, but playing in a band is so different and so amazing, and allowed me to appreciate musicians even more. And I just had a young man was just interviewing me before I started with you, and I was talking to him, and I was just like, being on stage, and I found myself just looking and enjoying my bandmates. Yeah, of course we got together and we recorded and practiced and rehearsed and all those things. But now this is the live moment. You know, not that we were in the moment, we are the moment. We were the moment. This moment right here. Everybody else is in our moment of doing what we're doing. And I was just like, sometimes I'm just looking at Rich and I'm just like, man, that's amazing. And then having to realize you can't watch the drummer, or you can't watch the bass player, you can't watch Mike Martin do his thing because you have a verse coming up. You know, it's like, you know, it's like I got to do my job. But then, you know, sometimes I just caught myself like, wow, that was amazing right there. So I'm seeing what the audience is seeing, man. So yes,
no, exactly. It's you can, you know, sometimes you just get caught up and you're looking and you're like, I can't believe these other guys are doing that, you know, and and then all of a sudden you forget where you are. But but it is. I mean, that's what's incredible about it is, you know, people can just get together and all of a sudden the sound starts coming out from people, you know, and particularly, I'm sure for you, you know, you've been in the studio so much. Yeah. You know, it's a different process recording music and it can be, you know, very, you know, it's very labor intensive and all that. But it, you know, there's something very different about than trying to do it together live and sort of with what you have in your hands right there.
100%. Yeah. Great segment there, young man. I love that. That was enjoyable for me. So
good.
What makes A Doll's House a must see and listen?
Well, I think, I think it is just to take on a little bit or take off from what we were just sort of talking about is I do think it has that sound of this is a band. It's got its own sound, and you know, it's not to say we're going to set the world on fire with, you know, there's to some extent, right? There's nothing new under the sun, but I do feel like the album has a definite vibe to it. I feel like you're listening to a band, that these songs are coherent. Right. That there's a real feeling that comes from it when you listen to not just a song, but the whole album together. So I think it's that, you know, and hopefully trying to, you know, rekindle some, I shouldn't say it that way, but I was going to say rekindle some interest in kind of looking at music in an album sense, right? Of like, okay, this is actually a moment in time. There's a piece of work here. And, you know, I'm obviously biased, but I think there's a lot of really good songs on it.
Of course, you're supposed to be. You know, we want, you know, somebody was saying to me, we really do create it for us. And yes, we want the public to definitely love it. We all want to sell 1 billion. You know, we want that. Right. We definitely do. But we also make this music because it's something that we love. And you know, it's not like we're trying to go out there and purposely do this. We're doing what we feel. And that's just a lovely thing. And we want people to receive it in that way. And not everybody will, but that's what we're doing. And so, no, I understand that clearly, man. And I think that you should go out there with all the confidence in the world. No, I wanted you to talk that talk. I wanted you to say like, yo, this is who A Doll's House. This is who we are. And this is what we're bringing to the table. This is how we're going to handle business. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying anything like that. So, you know, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. So, I believe you guys have something special that will please the listening palate of many out there, and I'm excited for the journey you're about to embark on. So, last question is, what was the last song you listened to?
The last song I listened to, this will sound funny, was a piano sonata from Mozart. I listened to that this morning.
Once again, the reason why I ask this question and always end with this question, because we as musicians and artists, you never know what we're listening to. And I have had, you know, answers from everywhere. I was listening to this and I was just like, oh, really? Were you listening to that? Yes, I was listening to this. You're the first one that says I've been listening. I was listening to Mozart. That's awesome. Right. So, you know, it just lets you know that we do love music and we have a wide variety of things that we listen to that we get pleasure from. So, man, no, that's
absolutely.
That's awesome, young man. Well, listen, I honestly could keep you like longer, and I just, you know, I want to kind of get in and get out, but nah. This has been another great one. I always enjoy my guests because I enjoy talking about music. I enjoy getting to know new artists, and you're still a new artist to me, and what you guys are doing. And so once again, I'm looking forward to Annam, which is now. Let me ask you this question. I said that was the last question, but let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
Is the album all the way complete? And you guys just releasing singles now, but the album's complete.
The album's complete, and I think we're going to have a second single after "Hey Wait," and then the whole album will be out. But it's done, signed, sealed, delivered, and
awesome.
We're getting excited to start on the next one.
And look at you, Dave, man. Nothing like music, man. Nothing like it. Well, young man, Seth, if you don't mind, please give my amazing watchers and listeners, your social media information and your website or anything else you want to talk about. You want to say something? The floor is yours, man. Enjoy yourself, man.
Well, I just want to thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Really interesting conversation. And look, I try to spend some time with the Lord every day, and you filled my quota for today.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. No, I've had this has really been another great one, and I knew it would be, and I just felt that we were going to have so many similar things because when I was reading, I was just like, oh my goodness. So as I listened to Hey Wait and as I read, then I go and I just start writing my questions and saying like, I want to ask him this, and some of the questions are the same thing that people may ask, but I want to ask what I'm feeling. And so usually I go down and I'm listening to your catalog, and as I'm listening to it, then I'm writing what I'm writing. I'm like, well, this popped in my head here and whatever like that. But once again, very, very thankful. Now, social media, website, any of that?
Yeah, so a Doll's House music.com is the website, and you'll see our link tree to all the social sites there. Yeah, there's a video you can see on YouTube for Hey Wait.
Yes.
We're on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, Pandora. So yeah, take a listen, and really appreciate you having me.
Nah, man, thank you, man. This has been a great one. I really, really appreciate it, and looking forward to some big things from you guys. Love the sound. I know I'll be listening. Right. Listen. I can fan out on it. I'm there with you, man. I love music, and I'm gonna really. When you guys do whatever you're gonna do, I'm gonna take the time and handle business, man. So
I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, man. Yes.
All right, take care.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you know who it is. It is yours truly, the Lord Nelson, that is, from the podcast Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS network with 5 Royals Entertainment. And my very special guest, one more time, my very special guest, Seth from A Doll's House. Thank you, young man. Now that's how we end it. I got to big you up. I got to big you up.
I love it.
All right, man. All right. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right, be good.
You too.
Nelson, that is.